Welcome to this explainer. I've been watching this place for a very, very long time. I am just a weary, ancient witness to its ruin. Step with me into Lead City. It's a world totally stripped of its vibrancy. Picture towering, crumbling structures, completely buried in total shadow. The only thing you can see is the agonizing gasp of a dying light. What we're diving into today is a dark fable. We call it the Cosmic Creed of Negation.
And here is how it all comes apart. These aren't just points on a list, they're the pillars of the Great Dissolution. Think of it as a prophetic map showing the exact methodical steps taken to finally cure this messy world of its exhausting friction. We'll start with the birth of the Cosmic Creed. Then we'll walk through the parables of hollow echoes, drained hearths, and leaden tongues. And finally, we'll reach the infinite zero.
Let's get right into Chapter 1, the birth of the Cosmic Creed. Imagine a cold, heavy light descending upon the skyline.
Once upon a time, the nature spirit verdant represented the living, exhausting friction of life. But as the great star's cold light bathed this crumbling city, that chaotic struggle was deemed a complete cosmic mistake. So what emerged from the ruins? An oxidized lead shell, a sharpened, malicious presence of pure negation. It looked at the very act of existing and saw it as a terrible, pointless burden. This malicious spirit didn't just wander, it operated under an absolute universal law, the Cosmic Creed of Negation. It's a deeply cynical wisdom that preaches the absolute vanity of all striving. Think about your own life for a second. Think of your everyday exhaustion, that heavy burden of just trying so hard all the time. The creed looks at your relentless effort and promises you relief. But that relief comes through total surrender.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, the parable of hollow echoes, a frequency of absolute vacancy.
As the shadows grew, I watched the villagers of Lead City fall to their knees, and I watched their prayers just dissolve into the void. The malicious spirit, now perfectly aligned with this tool of total unraveling, didn't pity them. It mocked them. With complete, cynical detachment, it looked at their desperate pleas and called them hollow echoes in a throat destined for dust. Every prayer was just an utterly wasted effort.
And that absolute despair? That became the first tenet of the creed. Every spoken word merely delays the everlasting quiet. The dragon spirit understood something chilling. Noise, speech, cries for help, it's all just more living friction. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. Silence is the inevitable, victorious quiet.
Now we move deeper into Chapter 3, the parable of drained hearths, where the very concept of home is targeted.
Standing there in the total shadow, I watched the villagers huddle together. They were clinging to the dying light of their meager fires. But to the spirit, that shared body heat was deeply offensive. It preached that warmth is merely a temporary theft from the void. And the dragon knew, with absolute certainty, that the cold would always, always reclaim what was stolen. You see, the great star's cold light didn't scorch them. It didn't burn their skin. Instead, it did something worse. It dissolved their very will to survive. It proved to them that the chaotic struggle of life is just an unpayable debt, and the only true way to settle that exhausting ledger, a return to inorganic calm, the total, unflinching stillness of oxidized lead.
This leads us to Chapter 4, the parable of leaden tongues, the moment the dragon spoke directly into the dying mind.
Eventually, the heavy, suffocating fog lifted, and the dragon spirit bypassed the air entirely. It spoke the cosmic creed straight into the minds of the dying. It said, "To breathe is to borrow, and to die is to finally be honest." Think about how heavy that is, a malicious truth echoing in their fading consciousness. But here's the crazy part. It brought them a twisted, cynical relief. It literally gave them permission to just stop trying. Once that painful burden of striving was stripped away, the full reality of the Great Dissolution took hold. The ultimate realization hit them. Nothing built has the inherent right to exist. Neither the grand, decaying stone towers of Lead City, nor the ancient forests that came before them. None of it mattered anymore. They were all just temporary interruptions in the dark.
Finally, we arrive at Chapter 5, the infinite zero, the absolute climax of our fable.
The pace of destruction accelerated terrifyingly toward a final convergence. Let's look at this timeline. With exactly 1 hour left, the star tore the very fabric of local reality. At 1 minute remaining, the dragon exhaled a breath of absolute zero. And in the very last second, the spirit eagerly traded its living flesh for the void. It was a rapid, chronological descent that permanently corrected this messy world.
0. That is literally all that remained in Lead City. That absolute zero breath was the undeniable nullification of existence. No friction, no warmth, no sound whatsoever, just the perfect, freezing quiet.
And that brings us to the chilling truth of the lead horizon. Total shadow has won a total victory over the dying light of creation. It's a landscape that never lies, because the messy world of living friction has been perfectly corrected into a flat plane of dust. The cosmic creed of negation doesn't just stand as a philosophy anymore. It is the sole remaining law of reality. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocation, staring right back at you from the void. The dragon of negation's dark enlightenment doesn't just exist in some fantasy fable. It questions our very nature. As you step away from this explainer, and as you carry your own exhausting burden of living friction into tomorrow, I have to ask, why do you delay the everlasting quiet?